I've been playing D&D for 5 or 6 years now, and during that time I've played a grand total of 15 different characters, even if just for one session. In honour of those characters who have few or no pieces of fan art, I've decided to put them all together in one big piece, laid out like a stained glass window. Last time we took on Nerev, the Satyr Bard, and today it's up to the wheel once more to decide who we get. Whose lore will be blessed background noise today? Settle in, have a brew, and let's find out. Bree! It's Bree Bramblecrest. Known as Bumblebee to her friends and family for the way she's always buzzing around, Bree is a ghost-wise halfling, the shortest character I've ever played, and a very rare cleric. Her cleric domain is one of peace, a strong believer that violence can never truly resolve conflict, and peacekeeping skills developed from 2 decades of raising her strong-willed children. Bree was intended to be part of a campaign, but it fell through after only the first session, leaving her in this sort of limbo. Perhaps that was lucky for her, as campaigns tend to have something world-ending about them, and Bree only really wanted to take up adventuring as a spot of fun. Bree's life up until hitting the road was one she herself would describe as almost boringly normal. Her childhood wasn't particularly special. Her father died when she was young due to the mining sickness he'd developed, and her family was very poor without his income. She and her younger brother would work after school to help their mother make ends meet. It was through this part-time work as a teenager that Bree met her future husband, a human boy named Calf. They began to date at the ages of 15 and 16, and the moment they turned 18, they got married. It was around this time that Bree became estranged from her mother, so it was a good thing she was moving out anyway. You see, Bree hails from a country named Bornord, a place most saturated with rain and religion to match. Many in Bornord, Bree included, worship a goddess known as the Lady of the Damp and Rain, and in her mythos it is written that she was betrayed by her third son. As such, third sons are taken away to monasteries to be raised away from temptation, or left out in the marshes to die. It was revealed to Bree, and to the church, that she'd actually had an older sister who'd died in infancy. This meant her younger brother was a third son, and by the time the priesthood came knocking, he'd already run away. She loved her brother, but she couldn't understand how her mother could lie about something so important, when all it resulted in was a particularly cruel goodbye. Life plods on, however. Bree settled in with Calf, and 4 years after their wedding, they had their first child. In total, they had 5 children, most of them either tall halflings or short humans. The first 3 were boys, named Ander, Phineas, and Zenlin. Finn and Zen were identical twins, and Bree finally understood her mother's heartache when the youngest of her boys was surrendered to the church. Any temptation she'd had for keeping him was sundered by the priesthood and her equally religious husband. She was comforted by the hope that perhaps life at the monastery could be kinder to him than being led blindly into the seducer's arms. Her 4th child was a little girl called Welly, and after her birth, Bree had no plans to have another. This sort of thing is quite taxing on the body, and the midwife told her she wouldn't even be able to have another child anyway. Imagine her surprise, then, when nearly 5 years later, she and Calf would have their 5th child, a little girl. A little tiefling girl, named Osiris. Bree had no idea where this tiefling had come from. As far as she knew, there were no tieflings on her side of the family, or Calf's, but still, she loved Osiris all the same. Little did she know, it was a pact Calf had made with something infernal that led to the appearance of her youngest daughter, but what he gained from this pact or why he made it is unknown to her, even to this day. Time passed, and Bree watched her children grow into adults. One by one they flew the nest, off to their own lives. Most of them became adventurers, travelling minstrels and mercenaries. As the postcards from foreign lands arrived at her door, Bree began to feel a pang of longing she'd not felt in a long time. She realised she wasn't happy. She didn't want to sit around in this house with Calf for the rest of her life. She wasn't even sure if she loved him anymore. He was so different from the man she once knew. The next time she saw her children, damn it, she wanted her own adventuring tales to tell. She pondered leaving for weeks, months, and eventually she found her resolve. One day she simply packed her bag and left, leaving a farewell letter, her wedding ring, and a freshly baked loaf of bread on the table for Calf to find upon his return. Aged 53, Bree Bramblecrest left Bornord to become an adventurer, armed with a straw hat and a backpack almost as big as she is. Her travels led her to the Witchlight Carnival, where her session took place, There she met a large party of very strange individuals, including 2 fey bards that delighted in the misfortune of others, a couple of orcish brothers who bickered all the time, the older of whom flirted with Bree a lot, a young mage boy created in a lab, amongst a few others. Together they rode in bubbles, saw each other's secrets in the Hall of Mirrors, calmed a lost child, and shattered a disco ball. Bree's warmth and positivity endeared both the party and players to her immensely, and naturally, of course, she cares for the younger members of the party like her own children. I'm not sure where she is now, or what she might be up to. I doubt that group stayed together for long, but I like to imagine that she and that young mage boy continued to travel together. She's likely looking to retire at this point. She might be well into her 60s by the time I see her again, and a good decade or so of adventures has given her plenty of stories to tell. Perhaps every Yule she throws a large feast at her home, and her kids are joined around the table every year by a collection of weird and wonderful travellers Bree has adopted on the way. So, here she is. If you have a character you think Bree would invite to her Yule feast, tell me about them in the comments below. Or, if you prefer, you can join us on stream here and talk about this stuff in real time, every Friday from 8 PM to 10 PM GMT, UK time. Thank you for joining me. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to make a bargain with a hag today, and I'll see you next time.